Hi, all you boys and girls out there in TV land. It's your old pal Justin here, back with another installment of The First Time I Ever Saw, where I share some amusing anecdotes about the first time I ever saw a movie. But it's not just the first time I saw just any movie. It's not the first time I saw Stand and Deliver or the first time I saw Cutthroat Island. No, this is the first time I saw a movie that forever changed my perception of film and potentially the course of my life. This week, I'm going to share some stories about the first time I ever saw Dawn of the Dead. George A. Romero's classic 1978 apocalyptic horror film that skewered politics and general consumerism. So if we can time travel, if you will, let's go back to when your old pal Justin was about, 12 or 13 years old, and he was hanging out. I was hanging out with my friend Phil. And what me and Phil would often do is we would go and we'd rent a couple movies. We would go to his or my home, and we would watch them. And I obviously always went for the horror films. Duh. Look who you're talking to. And we were searching through movies, and I actually really wanted to see, they had Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I hadn't seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre yet. You know, I actually put myself about 11 or 12 on this, yeah, just to verify. And, they didn't have the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I still had not seen yet, but they had Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And I thought, wow, you know, maybe I'll try and get my friend's dad to let me watch it. No. And he said, no, but you can pick out something else. So I was looking through the tapes. I was kind of bummed out. And I saw this tape for a movie called Dawn of the Dead. It was on Thorn EMI. I'm sorry I actually have that tape. I just don't have it here. So I apologize for not having a visual aid. And so I see this movie and think, hey, you know what, is it alright if I rent this? Is it okay? And my friend's dad says, yeah, that looks plenty cheesy. I don't think there'll be a problem with that. So I think, sweet. So we rent it, and we go home. My friend Phil, we watched movies in his basement, which is kind of like, he had, you know, video game systems, and it was kind of his area, and it was kind of a place where, you know, we could kind of do our own thing and not be disturbed. So I rented this movie, and he had a black and white TV downstairs, and that's just how it always was. It's not something I really complained about. You know, I'm hanging out watching movies with my friend, and we put this tape in, and it's interesting because it doesn't really, you know, it starts off reasonably slow. You know, it starts off in the newsroom, and I'm thinking, okay, it's definitely interesting because he portrayed chaos very well. And you can tell that, you know, shit is not alright in Denmark. Something is foul in the state of Denmark, and something's got these people on edge, and we find out that this zombie apocalypse, this zombie infestation, if you will, has been going on for a while. It was after I saw this film that I found out that it's actually a sequel to a semi-sequel to Night of the Living Dead, which I actually hadn't even seen yet. And so I'm watching, and all of a sudden they're going into this housing project. Something that kind of hit close to home to me, because I more or less lived in a housing project as well. I lived in low-income housing here in Winnipeg. And there's this guy who, you know, says the N-word, and I'm like, oh, wow. You know, I'm like 11 or 12 years old. I'm like, oh, wow. And they said the N-word, and all of a sudden, about another 2 or 3 minutes in, a guy's head explodes. Something I hadn't really seen before. I hadn't yet seen Scanners, which would probably be another movie. And of course, I would see plenty of head explosions after that. But I was like, whoa, this is in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. You know, like, what else is in store? So I just sat there watching with open eyes, wide eyes, and a dropped jaw. I was completely floored by this movie, and I loved how the zombies looked really garish, and they looked really kind of comic booky, and I'm an enormous comic book fan, so that worked out just fine for me. And it was insane because it was this like zombie movie, but it's not really all that grim a movie. In fact, it's actually rather enjoyable, which is really which is interesting. And and this movie also marks an interesting milestone because at about an hour and 30 minutes in, maybe an hour and 35, and the bikers are getting into the mall, and I'm loving this movie. I am already loving this movie. These bikers get their fucking guts ripped out. And I'm like, holy, I had never seen that before. I had never really seen in that graphic detail intestines being ripped out before. That was actually a first for me. And I'm like, holy shit. I turn over to try and give my friend Phil a high five, and he's like, it wasn't his thing. It just wasn't his bag. And so, by the time the movie's done, I am just absolutely fucking floored. I had no idea I didn't know movies like this existed. I really didn't. And I remember it left this huge impression on me, and I watched it for the first time on a black and white TV. I couldn't even really see all the colors. I could tell the zombies were colored kind of strange, but it left such an amazing imprint, and I didn't even see it for the first time in color. And then I definitely recall watching it before having to return it about a week later, and on color it was just as stark, and it just had left just as powerful an impact on me as it did in black and white. And from that moment on, it quickly became my favorite movie, and still is to this day my favorite movie of all time. I've watched it probably a good 150, maybe even 200 times since then. There's actually a period when I was in junior high when I watched it every single day after school. I became obsessed with this film, and I still am. I am still absolutely 100% obsessed with this movie. Just to show you exactly how obsessed with it I am, I carry a little piece of it everywhere I go. I'm going to give a shout out to my beautiful girlfriend, Megan, once again, whose room we are in, whose webcam we're using. She actually got me a Dawn of the Dead cigarette case. I don't have any smokes in it right now. I actually just took this one in the pack, but I just got this for Christmas recently, and I absolutely love it. And this absolutely just goes to show how much I love this movie. I love this movie more than any other movie. This movie is the bar to which all other films are mentioned. In my mind, this is a perfect movie, and every single time I watch it to this day, I'm still reminded of my friend Phil's basement and the black and white TV, and his dad who allowed me to watch a movie, to rent a movie, that would literally forever change my life and my perception of films and horror films. And that's my story for today, folks. I know it wasn't quite as long as the others, and I know I do apologize for the video quality. I know this webcam isn't actually exactly the greatest, and I know it's probably shaky, and I'm probably not. You probably have to turn up the volume pretty loud as well to actually be able to understand what's going on. But please believe me when I say I'm working on getting a new camera and actually being able to produce a better video quality and actually do some more stuff in terms of video editing and things like that. So I apologize that the film, the quality of the video isn't exactly that great, but nevertheless, I love making videos for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned next week when I take another trip down memory lane and talk about another film that I hold dear to my heart and the experience of when I first watched it. So until next time, this is your old pal Justin, signing off.